Hello, I'm Kimberlie Kranich from Illinois Public Media, WILL TV in Urbana, Illinois. The new documentary, Mama Bears, is available for broadcast on PBS TV stations nationwide starting June 20th, 2023. Mama Bears puts the spotlight on the fiercely protective Christian mothers who advocate for their lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender children. WILL TV will broadcast Mama Bears at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time on June 20th. You may also watch Mama Bears on the PBS app starting the same day. Today is May 24th, 2023, and I am pleased to be able to have a conversation with Mama Bears director and producer, Daresha Kyi. Daresha, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so glad that you made this film. It is very moving, very powerful, and very thought-provoking. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. That's what I was hoping when I made it. That's what I was hoping it would be.
There are many different Mama Bears groups in the United States. Some are ultra-conservative. Your film focuses on two Mama Bears, both white Christian mothers, Kimberlie from Texas, Sarah from Oklahoma, who've become political advocates for their gay, lesbian, bi, and transgender children. What makes Sarah and Kimberlie's stories important to witness in 2023?
Well, one thing I'll say is that they're not just advocating for their children, they're advocating for the entire LGBTQ plus community, which is amazing to see these journeys. And their stories are important because they represent a new movement of mothers who have realized that their children are more important than what they've been taught to believe about them. They represent women who are willing to do the work of transformation so that they can truly embody unconditional love. And they set the bar high, and they set a good example for other parents who are struggling with this particular issue, with loving their children and reconciling the love in their hearts with the faith that they've been taught.
There's also a third relationship in your film between a Black lesbian, Tammy, and her Pentecostal mother, Tanita, from California. Tanita loves Tammy fiercely, but unable to reconcile her Christian beliefs with her daughter's lesbianism. Why is their story important to witness?
I really was excited well, from the very beginning, I always wanted a Black family to be in the film. I'm a Black woman, and it's important to me to speak to my own community. But with their particular story, another aspect that excited me was that Tanita represents a lot of parents who aren't going to be out marching in the streets. They're not going to be advocating per se. They're just going to love their kids unconditionally, in spite of what they've been taught. And so I really think that that message is vitally important, that you do not have to agree with your children to love them. And Tanita, I think that's part of the reason why she came on board and agreed to appear in the film, is because she believes that you don't have to agree with your children to love them.
Another thing that really moved me is the interweaving of the moms and their children, how you tell their stories that are both connected and their individual struggles. And what I saw when it comes to the LGBTQ children in the film, I saw their struggle to come out in a family and a faith that's spiritually violent and unsafe for them. I see them sort of as teachers of their parents. How do you see them?
I think children always teach their parents. I think that's part of why that relationship is so fraught sometimes, is because your children are meant to lead you if you will follow them. But, a lot of times, some of the directions in which the children are going, the parents are adamantly opposed to. So it makes it challenging. But there is wisdom and knowledge to be had from the parents and the children. And I think that's part of what each of the moms in this film have realized, is that their children have shown them, as followers of Christ, they have shown them a more Christ-like path.
And tell me, back in the beginning, I know this was several years ago, before COVID and during COVID, you were inspired to make Mama Bears. Tell us a little bit about your inspiration and maybe more deeply about what you hope the film's legacy will be.
When I first discovered the story of the Mama Bears, it was 2017, and I had just finished Chavela, which was my last feature-length documentary. about Chavela Vargas, the singer, the lesbian singer, badass, just badass. But I had just finished that, and I was looking for another story so that I could keep the ball rolling, keep the momentum going. And I came across an article in the Huffington Post that profiled Kimberlie and Kai's fight for Kai to use the girls' bathroom in Pearland, Texas. And Kimberlie mentioned that she had been a Tea Party Republican, super conservative, and that she'd made this journey to being an ally and an advocate for the community, the LGBTQ community, because partially she had found support with the mama bears. And she said, oh, and there were 2,000 moms just like me who are, conservative Christians who love their kids, their LGBTQ kids unconditionally. And I thought, wow, that's a lot of moms, and people need to know about it. And I'm really inspired by the journeys these women have to take, because that kind of radical transformation is really difficult. I mean, we don't like to change a lot as human beings. It's challenging. But this level of change and the risk that they take to possibly lose their friends, their families, certainly their religious communities, maybe even their faith, those are huge stakes, and to be brave enough and strong enough to risk all that. I was very, very, very inspired by that, because to me, that's heroic. Those are, what did Joseph Campbell, those women have to go through the dark night of the soul. That's what Joseph Campbell called it, right? And they take the hero's journey. And so that's what inspired me, was just knowing about them. And then I told a friend about the existence that I was like, I have an idea for a film. He's someone that we trade creative ideas back and forth. And he burst into tears, because when he came out, his mom, who was a Jehovah's Witness, had stopped talking to him for a couple of years. And so that was the first moment that I realized what the film could do, how healing it could possibly be, because he was just moved that these women existed. He hadn't seen anything, he hadn't met anybody, he hadn't read the article I read. Just knowing of their existence was enough to make him blubber,
I do
And
know.
then, because when I reached out to Liz Dyer at the Mama Bears org and told her of this idea I had, she had told me that Sarah Cunningham was coming to New York in 2 weeks on her first Free Mom Hugs tour. And I was like, okay, well, I have to shoot that, because I was living in New York at the time. So she was literally coming to my backyard. And so I was telling my friend about this. His name is Scotch Ellis Loring, and he actually wound up becoming an executive producer on the film, because in that moment, he gave me the money I needed to shoot with her. So I realized, okay, this film can be healing for the LGBTQ community. It could be a bridge between that community, because these mama bears are natural bridge builders. They speak the language of the evangelical community. They understand where they're coming from because they were there, but they've moved beyond that, so they can reach back, grab people, and bring them along with them, And that's what they do for each other. So they're real experienced and adept at this. And I just thought, if I can amplify their message and help spread that message, and help this movement grow, then I will have done my job, So that's what I'm hoping the film does, is that it brings families together. It helps parents understand their children, and also helps children understand their parents. Because one of the really important lessons I got from making the film was when I interviewed a gay man who said, it took me years to come to terms with my sexuality. Why would I expect my parents to do so overnight? So that gave me much more compassion for a community that I really didn't appreciate, previously. And just helped me understand that it's a journey. It's not always straightforward. It's not always direct. Sometimes there's lots of side steps. Sometimes people go backwards, it's a process.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that the film will, over time, create more affirming churches. I mean, I got big dreams,
Of course.
and hopefully stop some of this anti-LGBTQ plus legislation.
All props to you, Daresha, for making both narrative and documentary films and television in Spanish and English. It takes a lot of grit. What do you think are the qualities in 2023 that a person needs to make independent films? And do you have any words of advice or encouragement for those who are up and coming?
Yes, I do. I think it takes, first of all, tenacity. You cannot give up. You have to fight, 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 fight. Like your life depends on it to bring a film to from conception to completion, because it is not an easy journey. It is like it is kind of like the hero's journey with the dark night of the soul. There's quite a few dark nights of the soul in this process, and it requires everything you got, right? It requires your intelligence, it requires your compassion, your skill set when it comes to, you know, the technology, your skill set when it comes to communication, to bringing people on board. I mean, you know, you have to convince your crew, you have to convince the people who you want to interview, you have to convince funders, you have to be very persuasive. So my advice to anyone who is interested in this field, particularly documentary storytelling, is find a story that makes you so excited, that you feel so passionate about, that you're willing to go through hell to make it come true, to bring it to fruition, because you're going to be tested, you know. But if it's a story that you feel like only you're the only person who can tell that story, and you love that story, and you have to do it, that's the story you tell. Don't pick something that you're like, oh, that's a good idea, because you ain't gonna make it. Unless, you know, it's a work for hire and somebody's paying for it. But the stop start of independent filmmaking often, you know, deters people and derails a lot of projects. You know, you hear within the doc community of films taking 10 years, 20 years to make. And that's serious endurance. You know, I don't know that I don't have 20 years to give to another project, but I'm just saying that, you know,
Yeah.
it requires a lot. And so you have to be very committed to the story that you want to tell.
Well, I am just so deeply grateful, Daresha, for your tenacity, your commitment, for your conversation with me. I appreciate you, your storytelling, and your art, and I wish you much success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was a joy.
Join us on Friday, June 30th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the Virginia Theater in Champaign for a special screening of Mama Bears. We'll watch the film together and then have a discussion with local Mama Bears, LGBTQ folks, and clergy from a local LGBTQ affirming church. Plus, plenty of Q&A between the audience and the panel. Buy your tickets online at thevirginia.org. This presentation is a collaboration between the Up Center of Champaign County, the Virginia Theater, and Illinois Public Media.